Hello everybody, Michael here for Tactica Imperialis with episode 7 in my Grey Knights Codex analysis series. Today is the final episode. We're going to be taking a look at the Lords of War, the formations, and then we're going to give my final thoughts on the Codex as a whole. Now this video, unit-wise, is going to be pretty short. I mean, there's one Lord of War and there is one formation, and that's it. However, this episode will be drawing on all the special rules and units that we talked about earlier in the series, so if you haven't missed anything, make sure to click the link in the description below, and you can watch the entire series from the beginning. So, let's start with the Lord of War. He is Kaldor Drago, the Supreme Grand Master of the Grey Knights, and lore-wise, pretty dumb. I don't know what it is, but none of us like Drago. None of our gaming group likes Drago. Not sure why. But on the tabletop, he will set you back 245 points and will take up the Lord of War slot, meaning that you will still have to take a HQ, although this guy can still, I believe, be your Warlord. He is Weapon Skill 6, Ballistic Skill 5, Strength and Toughness 4 with 4 wounds, Initiative 5, 4 attacks with Initiative 10, and a 2+ save, which is pretty much the same as any other Grandmaster. In fact, if I go and check the Grandmaster entry, I can go and actually compare the two side by side. Grandmaster. Oh, sorry, yeah, he's in there. 6, 5, 4. He has an extra wound. Okay, so he's a Grandmaster, but he has an extra wound. That's not bad, I guess, considering, well, he's got the extra relics, so I can't really compare their points cost directly. It's not fair. Right. So there you go, that's his stats. He is an infantry model. He has Terminator armor, a Storm Bolter, frag grenades, crack grenades, psych out grenades, an Iron Halo, and a Storm Shield. The Iron Halo is completely pointless because it gives a 4+ invulnerable save. The Storm Shield gives a 3+ invulnerable save. So why the Iron Halo is there is simply narrative. Deal with it. You might be wondering where is his sword. We will get to that in a minute. He has the Aegis, Eternal Warrior. He's fearless, an independent character. He has preferred enemy demons. He is mastery level 2, and he also has purity of spirit. These are all standard rules we talked about earlier in the series. He knows powers that are locked, which surprises me a little bit. He knows 4 powers: Banishment, Gate of Infinity, Hammer Hand, and Purge Soul. Now, anyone who's run the maths in their head will be looking at me like, why did you say 4 powers when he's level 2? You should only know 3. I don't know either. I just assume Grey Knight reasons, because his Warlord trait doesn't give him an extra power either. His Warlord trait is Demon Slayer, which we covered, I think, all the way back in episode 1. And as much to remind myself as to remind you guys, it gives something. Rules. Oh, God. They changed the layout of every 7th edition codex. It's so hard to navigate them these days. It's a pain in the butt. Where are they? Oh, come on. I've lost the Warlord traits. I'm an idiot. Michael's an idiot, confirmed. He's lost the Warlord traits. He's a complete spang. Here we go. Sorry. He has Hatred Demons, as well as preferred enemies, so he just rerolls a bit more stuff. In addition, if he attempts to manifest Banishment, which he obviously knows, he casts it on a 2+ instead of a 4+. Kind of a terrible Warlord trait. Honestly, Loremaster would make sense for the fact that he knows an extra power as it is. Or something like Unyielding Anvil, because he's been in the warp for so damn long. Then again, Demon Slayer also kind of makes sense. So there you go. That's his Warlord trait. His relic is the Titan Sword. It is a melee weapon, plus 3 strength, AP 2, force, mastercrafted, Demon Bane. Wowzers. Now, Demon Bane is an Nemesis rule. If the force-like power is successfully manifested and targets a unit with 1 or more weapons with this special rule, then in addition to all usual effects, it rerolls fail to wound and armor penetration against models with the Demon special rule. So, for context, against a greater demon of something that's not Nurgle, because I think that might be toughness 7. Actually, no. Against the greater demon of anything, he is strength 7, AP 2, rerolling to hit, rerolling to wound, with instant death, if you remember to put force up. Holy God, that's disgusting. And even if you're not fighting a demon, then it is still a strength 7 AP2 force weapon with master crafted. That's disgusting. It is disgustingly good. I mean, the only thing that stops it being broken is that he only has 4 attacks. But bear in mind that he can put Hammer Hand on, and he goes to strength 9. 9. Jeez, man. And if you really need to be a dick, he can just teleport, because he knows Gate of Infinity. Yeah. This guy is disgusting against demons. Obviously, he's a demon slayer. It's in his rules. So I'm damn scared of this guy. And, well, he earns it. The one thing that confuses me is why he's level 2 but knows 4 powers. I think that's just a correction for number of dice generated, because Grandmaster is also level 2, so why would he be level 3? Makes him objectively better than a librarian. But, an odd one. What more is there to say about Drago? Not a lot. He has no function as a linchpin for your army, because he does not buff anybody. He gives his unit Fearless, which is great, and he's an Eternal Warrior with Storm Shield, so he's a great tank. But, I don't know. He just seems bland. Like, I could soup up a Grandmaster and do most of this. I mean, I can give him Terminator Armor, Storm Bolter, Nemesis Force Sword. The only thing I'd be lacking is the Storm Shield. And I can then put Hammerhead on it. And yes, I'm lower strength, but I can still do a ton of damage with a Grandmaster. I just worry that Drago is objectively bad. Well, he's not bad, not at all, but he's a big point sink. 250 points for a combat beatstick. Like, I talked about Gazcor in the Orc episodes that I did, and I said 225 points for a combat beatstick was bad, but he had army-wide buffs as well in his Prophet of the War. This guy has no army-wide buffs. All it will serve is to make your Paladin Death Star, if you choose to run one, all the more dangerous, because if you put force on them, this guy's strength 7 instant death. It's nasty. I mean, it's a halberd crossed with a hammer. Kinda. He's nasty, but I don't think he's that good. Would I run him? Probably not, because I don't like his lore, but I don't think he's too expensive, particularly in Grey Knights, to warrant a place in the army. That's my opinion on Drago. And he's your Lord of War. If I were you, I'd just bring an Imperial Knight, if you want to pay a ton of points. And then we have the formation, the Grey Knights Brotherhood, aka Company. And it consists of 1 Grandmaster, so you'll have to take a Brother Captain and upgrade him, a Brother Captain, a Brotherhood Champion, see the HQ video for those, 3 Strike Squads, 3 Terminator Squads, 2 Interceptors, 2 Purgation, 1 Dreadnought, and 1 Dread Knight. No restrictions on squad size, loadout, or anything like that. But that's a lot of stuff. I mean, it's basically the equivalent of a battle company, but damn, it's expensive. And it's lacking sorely in the elite slot. I mean, it's carrying 3 heavy supports, 2 fast attacks, an elite, 3 HQs, and 6 troops. That's not bad. But considering the power of Paladin's Purifiers, I know they don't quite fit the battle company idea, but damn, they're the units that you really want just to round out your list, and they're missing here. You can still take transport vehicles, which is good, but you are also lacking a Storm Raven, so if you do need air support, you'll have to take that from outside of your detachment. Special rules, Brotherhood Commander. If this formation is chosen as a primary detachment, you can reroll the Warlord trait table in Codex Grey Knights, meaning that if you pick a Grey Knights Warlord trait, you can reroll it. You can't reroll any Warlord trait because that's just like objective secured stuff. Psychic Brotherhood. As long as the Grandmaster is alive, all units in this formation successfully harness Warp Charge on 3+. Ow. Ow. Just ow. That is seriously good, because, let's be honest, the one thing that you might be thinking is, like, it's very psychic reliant. Because you're missing those elite powerhouses, like Purifiers and Paladins and things like that, you might be thinking, I need the Psychic to cover that hole. I can't take all these extra special weapons like I would in Purifier Squad, so I need to buff. And you can cast on a 3+. The one thing is, it says as long as he's alive. It doesn't say on the board. So you can keep your Grandmaster in Strategic Reserve or camped in a Land Raider if you can take them as a transport for Terminators, and basically keep that for the whole game. Alternatively, hide him in a Storm Raven. Same idea. Finally, Rites of Teleportation. This is kind of similar to the Nemesis Strike Force Detachment. Instead of making reserve rolls from the start of your turn 2, you can make reserve rolls for any unit that is placed in Deep Strike Reserve from the start of turn 1, as long as it's part of this formation. These units will arrive from Deep Strike on turn 1 on the roll of a 3+. In addition, all units from this formation can both run and shoot in any order in the same turn that they arrive. This is really quite nice. So the Nemesis Strike Force Detachment allows you to come in on 3s on turn 1, which is pretty nice. I think it also gave you Twin Linked. I'll just go and have a look at it, actually. I think it's at the front. Might be at the back. It's at the back. Damn. Yeah, I know it's very similar to the Nemesis Strike Force, but I think there is a slight variation. No, it's exactly the same. It's exactly the same. Okay. So the Brotherhood formation is a more limited version of the Nemesis Strike Force Detachment. You gain a heavy support slot, gain 2 troops, but use 3 elite slots. You lose your Lord of War, you lose your formation, and you gain a HQ. And you also gain cast on a 3+. So, is it objectively better than the Nemesis Strike Force Detachment? Probably. Probably yes. I think so, because the elite squads are really good, don't get me wrong, but their absence is not critical because you filled the hole with more heavies and more guys. This is the one thing Grey Knights I think will have an issue with, and it's something I'm going to talk about once I've discussed the formation, is dudes on the board. This forces you to put a minimum of at least 40 or 50 guys on the board, which gives you enough board presence to do what Grey Knights do best, and that is wreck face. So I think it's objectively better than the Nemesis Strike Force Detachment if you were planning to take similar units. If you had a list that revolved around Paladins, Storm Ravens, Land Raiders, and all those sorts of delivery systems, then obviously it's not as good for you. But if you're planning to base your army around Terminators, Strike Squads, Interceptors, and then you pay the tax of a Purgation Squad or 2, or the Dreadnought tax, not that I see it as a tax, you do pretty well. The only other thing you're missing, and I think this is probably the biggest gap, is Librarians. You don't have a Librarian in this formation. You have a Brotherhood Champion, a Brother Captain, and a Grandmaster. So you lose a bit of psychic power, but you make that number of dice up by having more units on the board generating dice for you. So it works both ways. And I think this formation, as long as you aren't planning to base your list on Librarians, Paladins, Land Raiders, and Storm Ravens, will work just fine. You take that as your core and you just add in a squad of Purifiers, or you add in a squad of Paladins, or you just add in a Librarian in an unbound fashion, and you're done. That is really useful, and I think that formation will do a lot of work. However, it is, of course, very expensive because Grey Knights are very expensive. And that is basically the Grey Knights Codex. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause the video, and I'm going to have a little bit of a collation of my thoughts, and then we're going to discuss the ups, downs, and averages, and give a final verdict on Codex Grey Knights. Be right back. So there you have it, the Grey Knights Codex. I do hope you enjoyed the review. I hope you found it useful. Make sure to let me know what you think of the Codex down below in the comments. If you're wondering why my shirt's changed, it's the next day. I have had time now to sit down, gather my thoughts, think about the Codex as a whole. I've talked through it with Kieran as well, and it's time to draw a conclusion, give a final overview of the Grey Knights as a Codex. What do we think of them? What's good? What's not so good? And what's an overall rating? What are they good at? And everything else. So let's start with the positives. What are they good at? Well, Psychic. Kind of obviously. Everybody's a Psyker. You can generate a ton of power dice. to manifest just like your powers. The slight flip side of this is that all your powers are locked, meaning that you do not choose what your units have. Because, let's be honest, it would be rather useful if your Terminators could have Sanctuary. Kind of helpful. This makes Librarians very, very important, which you might think is slightly odd in everyone's a Psyker army to want a Librarian, but he's the only one who has access to the majority of the powers, as well as the Grandmaster and the Brother Captain, who have access to a few. So I do think Librarians are still pretty useful in Grey Knights and would probably be my first HQ of choice, because while Grandmasters are a bit better in melee and Brother Captains, Librarians will hold their own. They can still have Force, they still have Nemesis weapons most of the time, and they'll still do plenty of work for you. The other thing they're good at is anti-infantry firepower. There is so much anti-infantry firepower in this codex, it's stupid. It's stupid how much anti-infantry firepower. I mean, you have the Incinerator, which is a heavy flamer with a bit better. You have the Silencer, which is a 6-shot force gun that's AP nothing, which is absolutely terrifying to me with my lightly armored orcs. So orc knobs, Tyranid warriors, even Tau battlesuits to some extent have a lot to fear if the Grey Knight player activates force on any unit with a Silencer. Side cannons are just stupidly powerful. Assault cannons on steroids, strength 7, AP 4, 2 or 4 shots with rending. Do I really need to say any more? No, I don't. They're really, really good. But what these guns don't do is tackle the heavy tanks, something I'm going to talk about a little bit later. But if you're an infantry heavy army, you're dead. You're dead. Simple as that. If you're a monstrous creature, you're really dead. If you play a monstrous creature heavy army and you get drawn against the Grey Knight player, just run in the other direction. Just run. You're already dead. Grey Knights, if they remember to put Force on, will kill you. Every single time in melee. And if they remember to put Hammer Hand on as well, they're killing you on 4s in the majority of cases. That's just disgustingly good. So if you're not an Eternal Warrior and you're a monster, you better have some damn good involts and not be a demon, because they can actually knock your invult save down again. It's disgusting how good Grey Knights are at taking out monsters. Even their basic dude, the Strike Squad, they can take out monstrous creatures with relative ease. All they have to do is put Sanctuary on, put Force on, not Sanctuary, Hammer Hand on, put Force on, charge. One guy needs to land a wound, which, considering that when they're charging, they'll have a minimum of 11 attacks. Even if you kill half of them, because your monster's fast, which you probably aren't because you're a monster, statistically, to kill you, they need 6 attacks. They need 3 guys alive to kill you. That's terrifying. And that's basic guys. Terminators, the problem's even worse. They only need 2 guys alive to kill you, statistically. And this is with basic weapons. Add halberds, they have more attacks, so they need even less guys to kill you. Add in halberds, they're higher strength, meaning they need less attacks to kill you. Add in hammers, well, you're dead on 2s, straight up. And if you had a warding stave, yes, they're not power weapons like the other ones are, but anything with a 4+ save or worse is dead on 2s in a lot of cases, or at least 4s. Hammer-handed is actually 4s. The Hammer-hand is actually 2s, without Hammer-hand it's 4s. And they have Adamantium Will as well, so if you're planning to zap them down, not as easy as you might think. It's really scary how good they are at taking out monsters. Even Wraith Knights have something to fear, which is really, really scary. Another thing Grey Knights do really well, maneuverability. This is something that Grey Knights do extremely well or extremely badly, and it really depends on what they use. Rhinos, Razorbacks, Interceptors, Dread Knights that can teleport, Storm Ravens, great maneuverable units. With the combat squad mechanic, you can easily break a squad into an attack squad and a defense squad. The attack squad takes a Razorback and the defense squad camps on objectives in the corner. Interceptors, split them up. One side whizzes off, the other side holds back and then whizzes off later. The shunt move is brutal in combat squad and interceptors. I love interceptors. I think one of the best units in this codex if used correctly. Purifiers, another great example, but they need the Rhino delivery system. Dread Knights, yeah, because the monstrous creature wasn't scary enough. Now it has jump and it can shunt 30 inches once per game. Has the potential for a torrent flamer or a heavy 12 force gun or a super heavy psi cannon. Do I need to say it anymore? If Grey Knights are able to get at you, you're dead. And they have great ways to do it as long as they're able to take the firepower back, which in a lot of cases they can. Particularly if they have librarians who cast Sanctuary, or they have a Dread Knight that casts Sanctuary on itself. Yeah, not going to die in a hurry. So there you go. Grey Knights are really maneuverable, but, and it's a big but, if you don't put those maneuverable units in, yeah, not good. It's really, really bad how slow Grey Knights are. This, combined with how compact their forces have to be due to their high cost, means that any quick army can outmaneuver them, and any horde army can just drown them in the wrong place and tar pit them, especially if they're lacking Gates of Infinity to just go, whoops, I'm out again. Which is why, again, librarians are so important. They give you Sanctuary to protect your goods, they give you Gates of Infinity to get you out of tar pits, they give you Force, they give you the option to take other disciplines if you don't actually want to run Santek. They're really, really useful. But if you run a Paladin-themed army or a Terminator generally themed army and you don't deep strike, you have a big problem of being outmaneuvered and just basically board controlled. You can hit as hard as you like, but you're killing 1 or 2 units at a time, and you're just going to get controlled off the board. It's just not going to work for you. So you've got to be careful about that. And as I mentioned, their numbers are appalling. If you're going to run the mobile list, you have to invest in flyers, monsters, and vehicles. This brings the points per model even higher, and therefore the model count even lower, which means you're even more susceptible to getting tar pitted if you don't have a way out. If Grey Knights had hit and run, this would not be an issue, but they don't. So one of the biggest weaknesses is getting tar pitted. Any good horde player worth his salt will just aim to tar pit you. Guard, Nids, Orcs, if they have the units in place, will just lock you down. Even Nurgle Plague Bearers do a good job of it. Because, yeah, okay, sure, you can put Nemesis on and you have preferred enemy, whoop-de-doo. They've still got Feel No Pain, they're still Toughness 4, and they're still resilient. And they have poisoned weapons, which is really dangerous to your Terminators. Yeah, just no. Tar pits are really bad for you. You might not die, but you're just not going to get out of a 50-man guard blob who then packs a priest or somebody with an invuln. Like Azrael was a classic combo. Stick Azrael in, give the squad a 4+ invuln. Just take the challenges with your sergeants and the commissar you stuck in there just to make sure you don't run away. And then you just got to reroll all 4 up invuln on your priests because of your priest. It's disgusting. Something to consider. Tar pits are bad for you, as it's getting outmaneuvered, so you need those maneuverable units as countermeasures. The other thing I mentioned earlier about the anti-infantry, well, their anti-tank is bad. Or to a point, anyway. I think this is something you can counter, but Grey Knights have a severe lack of melter, plasma, and las cannons. They have some, don't get me wrong, but their main vehicle killing mechanism is the psi cannon, which is 24-inch range, and the Nemesis Demon Hammer. And as somebody who runs Power Claws a lot, I can speak from experience that Strength 8 weapons aren't that good at killing vehicles, even when they're AP2. Okay? They're not that good. Yes, with Hammer Hand you can go up to Strength 10. I give you that. But I can go to Strength 9 with my Power Claws, and I'm still not killing vehicles. You lack Armor Bane as a generic rule. It's really lacking, and without the masses of las cannons that other Space Marine armies can bring, without reliance on Razorbacks, Dreadnoughts, and Storm Ravens and Land Raiders, all of which are super expensive, takes up an elite slot, which is probably fine, but still expensive, and a transport vehicle, which is very likely to get procced because it's armor 11, you just don't have the heavy fire to take out heavily armored vehicles. The only mechanism that you have, really, because you even like drop pods for Dreadnought Alpha Strikes, is to probably use shunt moves. Shunt moves and deep strikes, get behind the vehicles and shoot them with psi cannons, because you can rend the rear armor and hopefully, touch wood, do some damage. But it's not that reliable. I mean, armor 10's a different story. You just beat that up with your normal dudes. And you even like melter bombs. Like something as simple as a melter bomb would solve all of this for the non-hammer dudes. But you have crack grenades, which don't do jack against most things. And in Walker combat, I think this is the other big weakness of the Grey Knights, is Walker combat. I mean, a Dreadnought's a Dreadnought, but as I found out with my killer cans, crack grenades are the only reliable mechanism Space Marines have to kill Dreadnoughts. Particularly if they are going to rely on Power Fists and things. The Dreadnought is faster than they are. Now, I'm going to use my Death Dread as an example. My Death Dread is packing 2 Power Fists and probably 4 or 5 attacks at Weapon Skill 4, Strength 10, AP 2, Initiative 2. That is faster than all of your Demon Hammers, which means he's going to eviscerate a fair couple, at least 2 Terminators, probably, before you get to attack with your hammer, which probably won't kill him. Yes, you have crack grenades, but you're glancing on 6s and you have 1 attack each, and your guys are really expensive. So in a straight fight, I get 1 Death Dread and you get 2 or 3 Terminators, point for point. I'm going to destroy you every single time. Even with a bog standard Space Marine Dreadnought, it's still going to go first with 3 attacks, and it's still armor 10. Sorry, it's still armor 12. So killing it is an absolute pain in the butt. I think Walkers is probably one of the best counters to Grey Knights. And anything that's tougher than armor 12, by which I mean Defilers, Soul Grinders, up to a point anyway, because risky. And what's the other one? Gorkanauts and Morkanauts are terrifying for Grey Knights because they have no good reliable mechanism to kill them because they don't have the ranged fire to do it. All they have is their side cannons, which, unless you're playing a small point game, is probably not enough. Also want to point out that Lord of War is kind of meh. I talked about Drago earlier in the episode. He's kind of bad. And you are sort of ushered into this way of playing that relies on your Terminators. But honestly, you're better off going without them, other than for being resilient. Paladins are fantastic, don't get me wrong. I mean, they're great Death Star, they're resilient, they can buff your army with the Brotherhood banner or the Nemesis banner. That's great, but they're slow as hell. They need a delivery system, and that's even more points. So it's something you've really got to consider. And I think Grey Knights are one of those that, if you're a Space Marine player who looks at Grey Knights, you'll lose a few games. If you're an Eldar player who looks at Grey Knights, you'll probably win more than that Space Marine player will. Because an Eldar player who is so used to Psychic dominance, and by the way, Eldar will probably beat you at Psychic, I'll talk about that once I've made this point, is the Eldar player will look at it as every unit is precious, far more so than a Space Marine player would. But even then, the Eldar player is not used to the inbuilt resilience at the reduction in value, or in the reduction in numbers, and the reduction in fire support that Eldar so rely on. In places, they can still spam you. So I think it's a really difficult army to play. And even the Psychic dominance that I just mentioned is not assured. Demons can out-Psychic you by summoning and all that stuff, which is fine because you can murder demons without trying, but still, it's not fun. And Eldar Psychic will still beat you because they have a wider variety of powers. They get more chance of getting the good powers. They're not locked. And yeah, there's still dangers in the Psychic phase. You won't shut that much of an Eldar Psychic phase down, despite having Brotherhood of Psychers in every single squad. Something to consider. And that's the end of this review. I hope you enjoyed the series. If I was to give the Grey Knights a good matchup, a bad matchup, and then an overall score, I would say good matchup is Tau, because you can get right up in their face with deep striking and shunt moves and wreck them. Bad matchup would be Eldar, because they're highly maneuverable, and their Psychic is good enough to shut you down, at least in part. You could also say that tank-heavy guard could be a bit of an issue, or anything that's very horde-based, except Tyranids, because monster creatures are ruined against Grey Knights. Overall rating, I'd say they're a pretty solid 7 or 8 out of 10 in the right hands. You have to know what you're doing with them. But that's just my opinion of the Codex, and I'd love to know what you think in the comments below. Make sure to let me know. Also, let me know what codices you'd like me to review next. I'm thinking of doing Adeptus Mechanicus as my next Codex, probably Skitari, and then probably Cult Mechanicus. But if there's anything you would like to see, please do let me know in the comments below, and I'll see what I can do. Thank you very much for watching. My name is Michael for Tactica, Imperialis, and until the next time, see you all again, folks.